Welcome to the webinar. Today we have two members of the Dimensional Insight documentation group here to tell you about the help systems for Diver Platform 7.0 and its products, and to answer questions live. The presentation was previously recorded, and I will be starting that recording in a moment. After the recording ends, we will host a live question and answer period. If you have questions while the webinar is in progress, please enter questions in the GoToWebinar question window. We will answer questions submitted in this window after the webinar has finished. So without further delay, here is the webinar.
My name is Doug McMillan, here with my colleague Janine Cullen to present a webinar on using the help systems integrated into Diver Platform 7.0 products. There will be a time for questions at the end of the webinar. You can submit questions using the GoToMeeting chat pane. This webinar is recorded. Today, we'll show you how to navigate the help systems, understand the page layouts, search for specific information, access company information, and provide feedback to the documentation group. If you have any questions using a DI product, the help is a great place to start. Here is a list of the products that have help systems. Workbench, an integrated development environment that contains major components including Spectre, Dive Tab, Measure Factory, Server Settings, the Dive Line settings, Visual Integrator, Production, Dive Master, Visual Builder, and Dial. In Diver Solution 6.4, these components are separate applications, but they are integrated into Workbench in version 7.0. Then there's ProDiver, a desktop data analytics tool, DivePort, a data delivery vehicle accessible through a web browser with administrator and user help systems, and NetDiver, a data analytics tool for a web browser. First, we'll show you where to access the help systems within each product. To access the help systems for Workbench and ProDiver, click the Help menu and then View Help. To access the help systems for DivePort, click Help on the upper right and then View User Help. If you are an administrator, you can also view Administrator Help. To access the help system for NetDiver, click Help on the upper right corner. We're now going to give 3 scenarios. In scenario 1, we research how to add a new user. In scenario 2, we research Dive Tab Quick Views. And in scenario 3, we find C-plan code examples. Afterwards, we will review and have time for questions. So in scenario 1, I'd like to learn how to add a user. There is a search box in the upper right where I'll enter Add User. And then click the search icon or press Enter. There are 183 results returned, which is somewhat overwhelming. I'll use the search filter to narrow the search. And use Workbench to do the filtering. I can use the filter to narrow the results by specific product or function. Now there are 42 results. If you put your search terms in quotes, it searches for that phrase instead of the separate words. Each search result includes the first few lines of the text, which gives you a preview of the content. I expect that the Managing Users topic answers my question, so I will click that. Take a look at the table of contents on the left. You see that Managing Users is highlighted. This is where the page exists in the overall structure of the help. Regardless of how the page opens, the table of contents dynamically changes to reflect where it is in the help hierarchy. Looking at the page, you'll notice that certain words are highlighted. The search function highlights the words you search for on a page. When opening a page from the search results, any collapsed items that contain the search term expand automatically to show highlighted words. Collapsed items are used to hide content until you need it, while allowing you to easily scan the content. I find these distracting, so I'm going to click Remove Highlights. Looking at the page, I see that there is a section that describes adding a user. which gives me the answer to what I'm looking for. I want to print out this information for later reference, but there's a lot of information that I don't want to include. A lot of this content can be collapsed to make it easier to look at. I'll click the Collapse Expand button on the toolbar. All content that can be expanded is expanded. I'll click it again to collapse it. Next to adding a user, there is a large arrow. Bolded headings preceded by a large arrow contain collapsed content. These typically reveal text, often a detailed procedure, and are marked by an end line when opened. I can click the arrow or the text to open it. Here is the end line indicating the end of the section. In this procedure, there are boxed arrows. The text preceded by boxed arrows contains collapsed content and typically reveals graphics. I can click the arrow or the associated text to collapse or expand the content. The Print button on the toolbar prints information currently displayed. If parts are concealed, they won't appear in the printout. I'm going to return to the Welcome page by clicking the Help banner on the top left. On the Welcome page, there's a term I don't recognize. It's blue text with no underline. This indicates a pop-up definition, which is typically an acronym or a glossary term. I can hover over it to view it. That's the end of scenario 1. Now I'd like to hand it over to Janine.
Thank you, Doug. Now I'm going to look up information on Dive Tab Quick Views. I'm going to enter Quick View in the search box on the top right. Choose the Dive Tab filter next to it, and then click the search icon or press Enter. Quick View is a glossary entry, so the definition appears at the top of the search results. All glossary entries can be seen in the Glossary tab on the navigation pane to the left. The Glossary tab allows you to search for terms and view the definition. But I want information about Dive Tab Quick Views, so I'm going to look at what is a Quick View page. When the page opens, I notice that the table of contents again indicates where the page is in the help hierarchy. I also notice that the title of the book and the page are different. What is a quick view versus quick view sets? In most cases, they do match, but in this case, the table of contents shows a book, which is a container for pages that describe related information. After looking through the page, I realize that I need more examples. There are links throughout the page that I can look at, or in a See Also list at the end of the page. Maybe the Quick View code block page has examples, so I'll click that link. This isn't quite what I was looking for. I'll use the Browser Back button to return to the previous page. Now I'll move to the next page in the hierarchy by using the Next button on the upper right in the toolbar below the search box. The Previous and Next buttons are used to navigate within the Help System table of contents hierarchy. You can also look at the breadcrumbs on the top right of the page to see where the page is in the Help System table of contents hierarchy. For example, the Quick View Code Samples page is in the Quick View Sets book, which is in turn is in the Working with Sets book. I'll click the Quick View Sets and the breadcrumbs to return to the What is a Quick View page. That's the end of scenario 2. In the last scenario, I'm looking for examples of C-plans. I'll use the table of contents on the left. I'm looking for C-plans related to Spectre. The next related book looks like C-plan scripts. There's a topic in the book that I can't see the full title for. I can either click and drag the dividing line between the page and the table of contents, or use the scroll bar at the bottom of the pane. It looks like that topic isn't relevant to me, so I'm going to look at C-plan code samples. This page has the information I'm looking for. I'm finding the table of contents distracting, so I'll click the tab between the navigation pane and the content page to collapse the table of contents. After I'm done, I can click it again to expand it. If I want to learn more about Dimensional Insight, I can look in the footer at the bottom of the page for product information, including third-party licenses, company information, such as their address and phone number, links to follow Dimensional Insight on social media, and links to contact customer support and the documentation team. If you have feedback regarding the documentation, please contact us using the email link doc@dimins.com. Now I'll hand it back to Doug.
Thanks, Janine. So let's review the main points that we'll cover today. We'll use a topic called the syntax-aware text editor. First, you can click the Help System banner at the top left to return to the Help System welcome page. You can use the search box on the top right to search for information and choose a filter from the drop-down to narrow your search results. You can also use the table of contents on the left navigation pane to explore topics and expand books. The glossary tab is useful for looking up terms. Keep in mind that some help systems include an index tab. There are toolbar buttons on the top left of the content page, the print button to print page content, the collapse expand button to collapse or expand content, the remove highlights button to remove highlights from search words, and the previous and next buttons on the far right to move through the table of contents. Note how the table of contents changes to highlight the location of the current topic. The breadcrumbs on the top right provide the location of the topic within the help system. Hidden content can be revealed by clicking larger arrows for the procedures or additional helpful text, or smaller boxed arrows for associated graphics. Pages can have inline or see also links at the end of the page for additional information. At the bottom of the page, as Janine just mentioned, you can find product information, company information, social media links, and the support website and the email address for providing feedback to the documentation team. Please send us your feedback and suggestions for improving the help systems.
Now that the recording has ended, I will turn control over to Doug and Janine from our documentation group.
Thank you, Rose. We're pleased to be here with you all and happy to answer any questions you may have about DI documentation. Janine and I both are on the Workbench documentation team and know that help system best, but can take questions, any questions you may have about other aspects of DI's documentation.
Here's the first question. In the webinar example scenarios, you only use the Workbench help system. What do the other help systems look like?
Good question. Each of the product help systems for 7.0 share a common layout and format. The intent of the webinar is to point out the main features that you will find in all of these help systems. For example, we switch to the ProDiver help to see that it has table of contents, index, and glossary tabs here on the left-hand navigation pane. Notice that the Workbench one only has contents and glossary. And each of the help, his DIVEPort user help, each of the help systems has a toolbar, and the toolbar buttons across the top left of the topic for printing, expanding and collapsing content and removing the highlights, as well as the buttons on the far right for navigating the help system structure. Okay, another question. What type of information can I expect to find in the help?
The help provides step-by-step instructions as well as conceptual and reference information. Next question. How often is the help updated?
Let's see. Well, you receive the updated version of the help when you also update your software. For example, you receive a new copy of the help when you update from version 7.034 to 7.035. The landing pages for each help system tells you the date and time that it was last generated, as you can see here at the top of the welcome page. The help systems are continually updated between official releases, and you can always obtain the latest version by contacting customer support. And remember that each topic has a link to the customer support in the footer, so you can access the customer support there. Okay. Here's a question just came in. How can I have a printed version of the complete version of any of the manuals rather than going page by page? So this is not possible at this point in time. You can print individual topics. We'll put that into our developing future and see if we can make PDFs more readily available. All right. Another question. Can I access the help from Dimensional Insight, the Dimensional Insight company website?
No, the help systems are stored locally on your machine or server.
All right, here's another question that just came in. How to find examples of specific function or programs like dial, etc. Well, so if we go back to the Workbench help, first thing I would suggest is you consider putting a search term, so a specific function. I think of one off the top of my head for dial, you know, commands for dial. But if you say time series and use the drop down here, the filter for dial, and then search, and then there are specific topics for references in dial for time series. Take a look at the first one here, control statements in dial. And notice in the table of contents on the left, again, as we mentioned in the pre-recorded seminar, the topic is highlighted in the overall structure of the help system, so you can find now that dial has quite a bit of topics here, and there's the functions for dial are all available here. All right, moving on.
Next question. I use Diver Solution 6.4, but the new help system appears to be for version 7.0 only. Is there documentation available for 6.4?
Documentation available for 6.4. Let's see, let's go back to Workbench help here. So all of the documents for 6.4 are available from DI download. When you download your software, there's a manuals link there are 2 zip files. But for your convenience, if you have used upgraded to 7.0 and are using Workbench, we have included all the 6.4 documentation in the additional resources. You can see here there's the 6.4 manual archive, and so all of the PDFs of the 6.4 manuals, and they are kept up to date because 6.4 is still having additional development. They're available here from Workbench. All right, question coming in.
Please show how to open ProDiver in DivePort help again.
As I just understood how to launch Workbench. Okay, so if I go to ProDiver, which I have open here, you go help, view help, and then it will open up a web page in your default web browser. And I have mine at full screen here. And the same is true for Workbench. Help, view help.
It's the same procedure.
Yeah.
And then dive port is a little bit different. You have dive port open. You go to help, and then you can either choose administrator help if you have administrator access, or view user help. And that will open.
Okay, great question.
Okay, next question. After I log into ProDiver or Workbench, what do I do next?
Well, we would hope that you would consider going right to the, as we just showed, help, view help. And in the dive port, which one, the ProDiver one I have open here, take a look at the introductory topics. As you can see, there's a what is new in ProDiver 7.0, and then there's a folder full of topics on ProDiver basics, as well as using ProDiver and the more detailed topics there.
Does Dimensional Insight provide installation guides?
Yes, we do. And I'll get back to the Workbench help. Down the additional resources, you'll see a 7.0 manuals folder, and then here there is the topic for the 7.0 installation guides, one for Windows and one for Linux. All right. All right, here's one. How is the order of the search results determined?
If the term being searched is a glossary term, the term and definition appear at the top of the list. After that, the search engine lists pages in order of importance, which is determined by multiple factors, including the number of links to a page, the number of times the search term appears on the page, and where the term appears. For example, if the term is in the title or top of the page, it is considered more important than another page that has the term further down.
All right, so here's one. You use the term topic pane. What do you mean by that? Well, so we have, a navigation pane that we've discussed here on the left-hand side for the table of contents and glossary, and some of the help systems have an index tab. So the topic pane, is that the word you asked about? The topic pane would be when you launch a topic, on the right-hand side of the window is where the topic is placed, and so we refer to that as the topic pane. All right, must the search term be a certain size?
A search term must be at least 3 characters. Fewer characters will return 0 results. Next question. If a link takes me out of the help, can I return to the help page that I was viewing?
Yes, you can. All external links within the help systems will open a new tab and in your browser, so you can always return to the tab where the help page was open in the first place. All right. Why are there 2 dive port help systems? Can people access both?
Okay. Access depends on your user license. Administrators can access both, but users cannot access administrator help. The administrator help describes information and procedures that require an admin license.
Right. So just showing on the screen here, the view administrator help in a dive port would not be visible to someone who does not have administrator privileges. All right. Can I use Google search?
No, the help system uses a built-in keyword search engine. They are not accessible through the public internet.
Okay. How can I access the recording of this webinar?
That's a great question. Rose?
We will send all webinar registrants a link to listen to a recording of today's webinar, including the live question and answer period. Please feel free to share that link with other divers at your company. It looks like there are no more questions in the question box, so we'd just like to say thank you for joining us today. We look forward to seeing you in the next webinar.